Welcome to High Gluttony, everyone. I'm Becca,
No, I'm Gretchen.
and today we're on a little bit of an adventure for our first Cannaquest. So we might have mentioned this in our intro, very first Toasted Sugar episode, but we love to supplement our recipe episodes with more informational deep dives on cannabis. And in this one, we do spend a little bit of time talking about some food stuff, and we'll get into that in just a minute. And down the road, we're gonna just keep exploring this topic, trying to learn more for ourselves, hopefully sharing more with you, and hopefully hearing more from you also. So these will happen probably once a month or so, but stay tuned and we'll keep you updated on what the next topics are going to be.
Now, you said we did a little bit of food talk, and I think that might not be quite setting the stage for what people are about to hear. We had a lot of food talk. So might be called a food quest more than a Cannaquest, but we do talk about doing some infused gin and, the benefits of infusing cannabis with alcohol versus with food, or, well, I guess we didn't really discuss the alcohol versus smoking, but we'll save that for a later Cannaquest.
Yeah, but you get the gist.
You get the gist. But then we spent a bit of time talking about a dinner that I had with my friends, Paul and Kristen, and it was Kristen's birthday. So we did it up High Gluttony style, almost like one of those good old dinner parties I used to have. So,
once upon a time.
Once upon a time. But yes, we spent a long time talking about how I prepared the duck we had as an appetizer and as our main course. We do get into potato talk. Maybe a lot of potato talk. We trimmed that down some for you so that you didn't have to get too much potato talk. And then discuss the souffle I made as well. My second souffle, my first chocolate souffle.
Yeah, and I think one of the reasons we wanted to share this meal with you this way is because, just as a reminder, I am a vegetarian. And so Gretchen and I are never going to make a duck dish together. And she considers this a level 5 recipe. And since we kind of wanted to show you a full range of options of what we'll cover, from toasted sugar being 1 to this full duck experience being level 5, we thought this might be a fun way to show you that without me having to cook a duck.
Yeah, we're not going to force Becca to make any food she does not actually want to make. So we do at some point want to do some cooking of things where Becca makes the vegetarian version and I make a meat version, but we'll get into that later.
Yeah, lots more to come. We have so many ideas.
So many ideas. And then we sort of cap it all off with what a terpene is. Now, the lady you learned about, had your initial introduction into terpenes with, she said it terpen, right?
She said terpen.
So I've always heard it as terpene, but so if anybody wants to weigh in on pronunciation of that,
please let us know. Once I saw it written out, I pronounced it in my head as terpene also. So I'm going to side with you, even without I've only heard it from you and this other person out loud. So obviously you can tell where my allegiances lie, but that's how I said it in my head too.
Well, yeah, since you're smart, but you apparently understand how words are pronounced. So it's Terpene. Is that really how it's spelled? I thought it was. Yeah,
I think so.
Well, maybe I just started thinking that because that's how she was pronouncing it.
Terpen. That is how it's spelled. Yeah, Terpene.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yes. I was going to say, we've looked at this enough. I always get,
So we talk a little bit about that. I get to discover what a terpene is and the role it plays in the whole plant.
But we are actually going to do a more in-depth dive on terpenes at some point when we had a chance to do a little more research. So we've decided that'll be our next Cannaquest. We'll get into that a little bit deeper. We kind of do a little bit of a surface, like a dip our toe in situation with the terpene. We talk about cookbook that I have that we'll link in the show notes.
Right, the edibles cookbook. We reference that a fair amount.
And I think we also decided we needed to explain what jelly bean is because we talk about it at least in this episode, it is a strain of marijuana for those of you who do not know. Maybe some of you do, because some of you probably know me in person, and we've probably smoked mostly Jilly Bean together, because that is Becca and I decided that is for sure what she smoked with me, because that's what I've grown for in the most volume over the years.
Yeah, that was my first gateway drug, if you will, the Jilly Bean strain.
Pot?
Gateway to more cannabis. Yeah.
Right. Well, but you gotta, have the right experience that make you want to come back and do it again, because like there are people that it does not work for, or they just get too much anxiety. Like there are certain strains that, like I have one of the vape pens I bought. I basically decided I had to go leave it in my mom's room because I was like, keep trying to smoke this, and every time I do, it sends me into a deep state of panic. So, smoke that one.
Yeah, not for me. Thanks, Mom.
For me.
Well, you're right, because Jilly Bean wasn't my first experience smoking. It was just the first time I enjoyed it, because have I told you the very first time I smoked? We had just left this house party. It was the summer between college and like real life as an adult. And they had a 3-foot bong. And my friend was like, come on, you should do it. And I was like, all right. I was drunk. So I was like, okay, I can do this. So I did it. And I immediately started crying. And I was like, why would you do this to me? Why would you do this to yourself? Who would like this? Like, it was a mess. And I think I broke my ankle that night. So it's not a good thing.
Doesn't help either. But mostly, no, there is a wrong way to be introduced to getting high, and there is a right way to do it. I do not approve. Here's Gretchen's rules for introducing pot to people. First of all, they have to want to do it. If they don't want to do it, we do not push this issue.
Consent is key in all dynamics.
Consent is very much key. Little bits are the way to go. Bong rips, very bad idea for a first time smoking experience. And like now
I know.
It's so strong that like even like a joint is wrong for like starting off some people. Like you have to know what you're giving to somebody. I do think it's good if you have like a pot guide,
pot guide.
Even as an experienced consumer, I've done like a half a cookie infused cookie one time, and like basically thought I was gonna forget how to breathe, even though I like knew what was happening. It was still very scary, and like my brain would not stop thinking I was gonna forget to breathe. Finally had to get up, go sit up somewhere, and my mom, they were, my parents come and live with me for the winter, audience, so they'll come up a fair amount because they'll be here soon. But my mom came and found me, and I was sitting in the kitchen, and she's like, what is the matter? And I was like, I'm too high. I was really high. I didn't even forget how to breathe, and I don't like it.
That's horrible.
It was so terrible. Like, it's funny only because I fully signed up for it. Like I ate the cookie. Like I just didn't know how strong the cookie was, and did not know that I should not eat more than an eighth of that cookie. Consent, small doses. Make sure you're giving somebody either very small amounts if it's something that's strong, or giving them something that's not that strong. And with edibles, make sure, I'm always telling people to start with like maybe a quarter of an edible, because the good thing is that you can always eat more edible. It's very hard to eat less edible after the high has already come on. So be careful, people. Be careful.
And it can take a while with edibles for that to hit. And we mentioned also when we're talking about the infused gin, the cannabis infused gin, that can hit really fast because of the way that it enters your body. And so just as a reminder, all of these things are fun when you know what you're smoking, when you know what's in it, when you know yourself and your levels and what is good for you. This is also one of the things I think we're going to explore later, because if there were more information available and more education available, then it feels like a lot of this stuff could be avoided, like a lot of these like really bad first experiences or whatever,
Well, and yeah, I mean, you would have, and they probably already have these, I just haven't seen them yet, but like a dosing chart where they can track basically how much affects you over what amount of time. But I don't know that that's necessarily the case because marijuana stays in your bloodstream so long. So like the good thing with blood alcohol content is gone in like an hour, like however long. So much easier to come off of that, than it is to come off of I've had too much weed type of thing with that, especially with edibles.
Sure.
Anyway, I really didn't mean to get into a whole dissertation on cannabis dosing right now, but there you go.
I guess we made up for the lack of Cannaquest part in the actual episode, so we're doing it now.
A little bit now. We're just bringing up some topics that I'm sure we'll come back to in more depth later. We're just starting this podcast, therefore, here's an introduction to some of the shit we'll probably talk about.
Yeah. Oh, and before I forget, be sure to check out our highgluttony.com website where Gretchen always posts the recipes that we use and the books that we use. We're also sharing tips and tricks on our YouTube channel and lots of fun photos on our Instagram. So be sure to check all those out, and those are all under the name High Gluttony. I guess without further ado, let's kick it off with our first duck experience and Cannaquest.
Oh, wait. Is DuckQuest a thing? No, I'm thinking of DuckTales with like Scrooge McDuck and...
DuckTales. Woo!
So it's Cannaquest, the Duck Quest.
Subtitle, the Duck Quest.
The Duck Quest. Anyway.
All right, have fun.
Hey! Today, we are making a preserved lemon gin and tonic, which sounds absolutely delightful, using our preserved lemons for this cocktail, which will serve one person, which I was like, I'll save my commentary until after I've read all the ingredients. Okay. So we need a quarter of one of our preserved lemons. So we got that out. 2 fluid ounces of gin, 2 cups of ice cube or as needed in case you need more ice, 4 fluid ounces of tonic water, and 1 small sprig of fresh rosemary. I was like, 2 ounces of gin? Jesus, they're trying to get me drunk.
They're not messing around on this cocktail. This recipe is from... This is a
All
recipe
Recipes.
from All Recipes.
Yeah. .com. Allrecipes.com, which for me is always such a slog because literally they are all recipes. Like you can find like 7 different recipes for the same thing and none of them are the same. So
Helpful, not helpful.
So our method here on making this cocktail, well, Becca tries to get the lid off of her jar, which seems to be a bit of a challenge today. Oh, but I see you're using your beeswax.
Yeah, the beeswax covers like
are really
sealing things.
good for gripping. That's pretty. That's very smart.
They are great for gripping.
Step 1. We're going to remove the pulp from the lemon and just get rid of that, not using it for anything in this recipe. And then we're going to save the peel. We are going to lightly rinse the peel with cool water because remember, this is a preserved lemon. So it's got lots of salt stuff in the peel already.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to get some of that stuff off the outside. So it's not too salty.
Okay.
And then slice off a thin sliver of peel and set aside for garnish. And we're going to combine the lemon peel, the not reserved section of peel, so the larger piece of lemon peel, and gin in the shaker. And we're going to muddle the lemon until slightly crushed. And then we're going to add 1 cup of ice to the shaker, shake until chilled 15 to 20 seconds. Moving on to step 3, fill a rocks glass with ice. Strain the cocktail over said ice and top with your tonic water. Garnish with your sliver of lemon and a rosemary sprig. So it sounds delightful.
Yeah, this is gonna be delicious.
Yeah, I'm excited because like I'd heard about like using the preserved lemon for drinks, like just adding it to like sparkling water and stuff, which I have done, and it is very tasty. The smell on this is really good though too.
The smell.
Yeah, I like the smell. I think it's all the what do we put in here? Clove and pepper and cinnamon, bay leaves, I think. So I'm doing my slice is going to be on the long way.
So did you already removed the pulp?
I did, yes. And I actually just took a second slice because I didn't like my first slice. So I'm going to just throw that back.
What didn't you like about it?
It just wasn't as pretty as I wanted.
Good point.
You know, because I'm doing this for myself, I might as well make it pretty as fuck.
That's true. There you go.
And I've got my 2 ounces of gin in my measuring glass.
Okay.
Which
always make sure you're checking the volume of things that you're using to measure before you make your cocktails. Partially, I make this note because my dad was making martinis using my measuring glass, which is a 4-ounce measure, and just getting himself fucked up. Because he was really trying to put maybe 2 ounces of vodka in his martini or gin in his martinis, and he was ending up with 4 ounces of
4
gin.
ounces per martini.
So he was like, I don't understand why this is fucking me up so much. It's like, and then he realized that this was 4 ounces, not 1 or 2. Like,
So yeah, very important to measure out your alcohol first.
yeah, properly measure your alcohol.
Double check it.
I mean, unless you're going for getting incredibly fucked up, then, have at. But
Right.
I still haven't invested in a muddler, so I'm going to use my rolling pin here. Yeah.
How long will these preserved lemons last now that we've opened them?
Well, they've got so much salt in them, they'll probably almost never go bad. Mostly, I see mine, like, the salt starts to recrystallize as some of the liquid comes out.
Oh.
So you'll get more ice crystals than anything else.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
I have some brownness along the rim where the lid was.
But you're using a
metal lid.
That's probably why the salt is leaking out.
Okay.
They have these nice, like, you can get these nice plastic lids at Target usually.
Okay.
Is where I get them. These are a leak-proof type. They used to make a different type that was like cheaper, flimsier plastic, but now they're making these really nice gray ones that have like a better seal inside.
Okay, so that's the way to do preserve.
Yeah, because the metal's just gonna the salt's gonna eat your metal.
That makes sense.
My rocks glass out here.
I don't have a rocks glass. I'm just using wine glasses.
Whatever you got.
Right.
Mine's not really a rocks glass either. I just call it a rocks glass because it's vaguely rocks glass shaped. So it's a squat little thing here, So and I am using Fever Tree Tonic, which was suggested on the recipe.
Okay.
But I have the refreshingly light tonic water because I only recently realized how much sugar is in tonic water.
Yeah. We have been drinking Q tonic water for the same reason for a long time. This was recommended to us a while ago.
I know about the Q. I'm also using my cannabis-infused gin.
Oh, I can't wait to talk about how you made that. All right, so you filled your glass and
I am ready. I strained mine. I almost might pop a little bit of like the salty water or the salty juice from in the. I'm gonna put that in there. It's like can't even tell that there's preserved lemon in there. Well, that's
a little more.
The purpose, right? I want a little more. I want it in there.
Yeah, we want to taste that salt. Well, and this is called salty lemon gin and tonic.
Yeah,
they're just.
I want to taste the salt.
Yeah,
I'll taste it.
And then top with tonic and add the rosemary.
I'm gonna sit my ass down. I stood most of the day yesterday. Got 7,000 steps in just running around my kitchen.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah. Shocking, I'm sure.
I know. That's like a light day.
Yeah.
At the High Gluttony headquarters.
At the High Gluttony headquarters. We were talking about? Oh, it's the High Gluttony Hideaway was another term we came up for it yesterday.
We should take a picture of our cocktail.
I did. I already did.
You're on it.
I'm trying.
Yeah.
I'm really trying.
I'm so glad you did.
That's because I'm like, all right, I'm ready for my drink now.
Yeah, ASAP.
Bring my water over here. Get my pipe over here. Don't look at me like that, Kenzie. Don't judge me.
Judgment-free zone, Ken.
Oh, I definitely think that a little bit of the salty lemon juice from the jar will not be undervalued in this application. It takes that saltiness up a little bit and you get a little bit more juice. Well, how was your Saturday?
We went to a dispensary.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How much of a drive is that?
This was an hour and a half.
Oh, that's not too bad.
No. And it was really cool. It was weird. Okay.
It was weird.
It was weird. Cheers.
Cheers. Hooray.
Hooray. That's good.
Yeah.
That's really
I was mostly getting gin before, and so I was like, I want a little bit more of that preserved lemon quality in there.
So yeah, that was my Saturday. We got up super early to get there early, and
It was really cool. So that's great though, because like I was like, how are you going to live without having a dispensary nearby?
Telling me.
Yeah. I put a little dash of salt on top of my beverage just a second ago to amp up the salt a little bit.
Yeah, you did. Sprinkled it right in there.
Right in there, yeah. Right on top of the ice.
I love it.
Like, yeah, I want a salty drink.
Yeah, man.
I like this. I like this a lot.
I do too. It's really refreshing.
Really refreshing.
I ended up doing a little bit more gin than it, or tonic than it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I will probably top mine off with some at some point. So.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about how you infuse your gin.
When you're infusing alcohol, usually you want to kind of go with a little bit more mild amount because alcohol can get into your bloodstream so much faster than like other edibles where the fat is going to be processed pretty much exclusively by your stomach and your digestive tract. So it takes a little bit longer to get it in you versus alcohol, which you can absorb through your mouth and hits that bloodstream a lot faster. So you have to be a little bit careful about like how much you do. And so the recipe I used, you got to decarboxylate your pot like we talked about back when we did the sugar.
Mm-hmm.
It's a similar process to doing the caramelized sugar where it's breaking down into a different chemical compound. So heating up your thing so that it'll turn into the active ingredient, TCA, or what is it, THCA? THCA is the original chemical compound, and then you need to change it from that because that's not psychoactive into THC, which is the psychoactive. So you have to toast up a little bit of that.
Yeah, and check out our toasted sugar episode for some more in-depth explanation of this decarbo lock. I realized I've never had to say it out loud.
Decarboxylation, yeah.
Decarboxylation.
Is that right? Am I putting words and letters in there that shouldn't be in there? Hold on a second.
Well, that's the only word I know now. So
yeah, decarboxylation. So decarbing, as we're going to call it, because it's much easier to pronounce.
Thank you. Right. So breaking it down, decarbing is the process of turning the non-psychotic THCA to psychotic THC.
Yes. Psychoactive. Sorry, not psychotic. Close. A little bit further. There's a few more. So I took a cup of, they're using metric measurements in this guide. So they want 250 milliliters of your alcohol and 7 grams of decarboxylated cannabis.
Okay. So that's just toasted cannabis.
Yeah. I mean, 7 grams is not a lot. Okay. So that it goes even further after you've infused it, which you do on a low heat to simmer lightly at around 160 degrees Fahrenheit for 30 to 60 minutes. So you need to keep it under 170 degrees because at 170 degrees, you've got your alcohol is super active and it can light on fire.
Whoa, okay.
So you want it under 170 degrees so that you lower that risk of, having something that's going to catch fire.
Minor detail.
But then you take that infused alcohol and dump it back into the full 750 milliliter bottle that you probably have of alcohol, so that you're even taking that amount, the strength of it down. So I'll grind up some pot and do a little image of how much 7 grams.
Great. So technically you're only infusing the 250 milliliters, and then you're just adding that to the
right. You're adding that back to the rest of your alcohol. So you're what's the word? I was going to say watering it down, but stretching your infusion further.
Dispersing it.
Yeah. So you're because part of it is like when you heat the alcohol, that's going to change it, so like you're going to excite the particles in it. So some of the aromatics might change. So by taking a small amount, infusing that small amount, and then adding that back to your liquor, you're going to have that much nicer, like pure liquor. You know, it's going to taste more like the original thing versus if you took the whole bottle, tried to infuse it, it would change the flavor of it, maybe in ways you don't like. So it just sort of dummy proofs it so that it tastes a little bit better.
Got it.
But also then keeps your dose nice and low so that you're not going to fuck yourself up with it. So, I mean, this is just really a starting point, because if you have higher tolerance, you could always monkey around with your proportions of how much pot to how much alcohol. But being mindful of the fact that alcohol will enter your bloodstream a lot faster, so you're going to get fucked up a lot faster than if you just ate it.
Right. That makes sense.
So I might be kind of down to the end on my infused alcohols at this point. I might only have the gin left. That's probably because I don't drink as much gin.
Well, it's time we got to do an infusion episode.
Yeah, I'm ready. We got to pick something. I wanted, there's a bottle of tequila. I want to buy forth the bottle, which is like, I don't know if that's the right thing to be doing, really.
Right.
Because it has a swing top on it, and I'm like, oh, I want that swing top bottle. But I could also just buy swing top bottles. That'd probably be smarter.
Put
Hi.
tequila in that.
Hi, bunnies. It's Aria, and Pod.
Yeah.
Oh, no, Pod's going back out for another round. You can do it. Yeah, I had put a Tupperware that I'd cut holes into under my desk because he wasn't using it in his cage. And so I put it under my desk so that they could like sit on top of it and stuff. And now he loves it. And he like hasn't looked in it in months. Today he pulled everything out from the inside of it and threw it all over my office. So now I'm gonna have to like clean up in there before I go to work tomorrow. It's just like, what are you doing? He's like, dig, 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 dig. I don't want this shit in here anymore.
Very decisive when
he's very opinionated about where shit goes in his cage. So we don't try and boss him about it. He knows what he wants.
Yep. He's got agency, bunny agency.
Yeah. We allow our bunnies to have agency here.
Yeah. The bunnies and cats have a lot of agency.
We. It's just me. The only one making official decisions here.
that you know of. Yeah.
Well, clearly I listen to the opinions of my animals very heavily. So.
You had a big day yesterday.
I did. It was very, very impressive, actually. So I picked up my duck. I had Paul and Kristen come to visit. It was Kristen's birthday. So Paul was saying, let's make something extra special for her birthday. And so we settled on duck.
Mm-hmm.
So I went and picked up a duck from a fatted calf Wednesday afternoon. So I had plenty of time to do all the shit I need to do with it, because we also decided that what we really wanted to do with it, because initially we were going to roast it, but then I decided that I was going to take the legs off and do duck confit, and then I would take the breasts off and then cook the breasts as like our main. So we had the duck confit before dinner as snacks, and then we ate the breasts for dinner, which was actually perfect. I have a whole duck leg left of tasty snacks to have later. This week I'm going to have fancy lunches because Paul also left me all of the cheese and charcuterie that he brought. So
lucky girl.
I know. It's like, he's like, yeah, we're going to leave this with you. Awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm not going to have to make shit for lunch this week. That's going to be great. And when somebody asks me what I'm having for lunch, I'm going to be like, charcuterie and cheese.
Just a normal Tuesday. Tell me about duck confit.
So duck confit, the origins come from trying to preserve your meat. So there's like salting and drying and smoking, which you can do just the salting and drying, or salting and smoking, or salting, drying, and smoking if you're really impressive. Or you can cook it in its own fat. So this is like thing I'm thinking of that they make with pork rillette
Hmm.
is basically a way of preserving pork. So it's pork that's either braised or cooked in the fat and then shredded. With duck, you take the legs off, you cook them in fat for about an hour, and then you just leave them in that fat. So you want to have your fat be as clean as possible, and you don't want to get anything like carbohydrate in there. It'll make things go bad much quicker. I miss Anthony Bourdain using the Leal cookbook, because I was like, the last time I made duck confit, I kind of fucked it up, which I was very disappointed in myself. But I guess it's been a minute since I made it. So I cooked it for way too fucking long and turned it into jerky, basically. I mean, it wasn't terrible, but it was very hard to chew.
Bummer. So do you buy the whole duck?
Yeah, so I still have the carcass and neck that I need to do something with, which I was just going to roast it and turn it into stock at some point.
You isolate the fat yourself?
Well, I've done that before, but this time I bought extra fat because I knew I wasn't going to have probably enough fat to start with, because I'd given I think I gave all of my goose fat to Paul last Thanksgiving. So I didn't really have any duck fat hanging around because I'm really bad about labeling things. Like, for a professional chef, I suck at labeling stuff at my house. So I'm always just like, I'll remember what this is. And then it's like 6 months later, I'm like, I got no fucking idea. What is this smell test? What is this? It smells weird. I think I might just get rid of it. So, so I bought some fat.
So you just buy it from like the butcher?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can buy duck fat. Since frying things in duck fat has become such a fad, at least in high-end cooking circles that I usually run in, I think.
Push your shoulder.
You can find duck fat in a lot of places. So yeah, it's definitely something that you can have, but now I have more because I rendered out all the fat from the duck breast before I finished the duck breasts on the grill. So I had more duck fat. So I've actually got the leg I've got actually in fat right now, in an effort to see how long I can keep it good. If the leg will go bad first, or if I'll eat it first. Now that is my quarantine challenge.
What's the timeline?
Theoretically, if you put it under fat and it's sealed so that there's no air touching the meat at all, it should stay good for months. Like, what does Anthony say?
What kind of container do you have it in?
Right now I have it in basically the same container I just used as a cocktail shaker. It was a 1.5 pint jar.
I see.
We ate the one that had kind of cooked and gotten real fat, and so this one was sort of more long and lean, so I could put it into this jar and then put the fat around it.
Cool. So Gretchen has decided that making duck is probably a level 5 recipe.
Well, especially if you do it the way I've done it where you have to buy the whole duck. You have to take the legs off the duck. Then you're confying your duck leg. So one of the steps before you even get into putting it in the fat, you have to take the legs off, usually season them with a little salt and pepper, and leave it overnight. Yeah, Anthony Bourdain just used salt. I actually put salt and pepper and thyme on mine, because I've definitely seen people do almost like a spice rub on it before letting it sit, so you get a little bit more flavor infusion. But just plain old, probably going with just salt is going to make it more stable versus adding other things, because the more things that get into there, the more chance you have for things to go bad.
Got it.
If you're just doing salt basically, well, not basically, salt does not go bad. So there's a few things in there, the longer it'll keep. So you want to let it at least sit overnight, because you want your skin to dry out a little bit. You want some of the moisture to come out a little bit. I mean, I think there was probably maybe a 1/4 cup of liquid in the little pan that I had them in after I took them out and put them in to cook. And then put them in the container, melt your fat in a different pan, and then pour it over. So I have a cast iron small dish, perfect for doing things like this, because it has a little lid on it. So I can basically put the fat in, you put the lid on, stick it in the oven for an hour at 375 degrees. And then if you could wiggle the bone a little bit and get sort of separate from the meat, that's one way you can check for your doneness. You can also poke it with a fork. Your fork should go in it easy, and if you could separate the meat a little bit, then you're solid. You don't need to cook it anymore. Okay. Pull it off the heat. So I cooked it I think I started at 9 o'clock, and then It was done by 10, and then I let it sit at room temperature just to cool down some before I put it in your fridge, because you don't want to put something really hot in your fridge because that's going to bring up the temperature inside your fridge. And you don't want to do that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not smart to put hot things in your fridge because it fucks with your fridge temperatures, and
That makes
you want to keep that as consistent as possible.
Yeah.
So I put it in the fridge overnight, and then the next day I got it out and had it at room temperature. And then when we got our charcuterie and cheese spread done, just pulled it out of the fat, and Paul shredded it right up and started eating it. It was amazing. Paul had sliced a baguette, and so we put the duck on the baguette with a little bit of a cherry mostarda I made a few weeks ago. So it's like a sour, vinegary, mustardy kind of topping.
Yeah.
Put that on top of the duck, and it was so good. And then I made some peach, like it was supposed to be like a peach jelly almost, but it turned out to be a little bit more syrupy than I would have liked from like a jelly. But that was also very, yes, my mad Gretchenist experiment. Also mad Gretchenist experiences.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
The only one that's experiencing them usually is me. Like some people get the end product, but anyway. So yeah, we had fun experimenting with putting different things with the duck and eating it that way. But then when
that
we
was
went
just the leg.
That's just the legs. So this is definitely why this is a World 5 experience with duck. Because
Right.
then
Then you really get started.
Then we really get started. So I left the rest of the duck so that like the breast would dry a little bit, like this, because I really wanted the skin to dry. I'm getting a little fucked up from this, Jen.
Yeah, it's good. Feels good. I'm getting
It's good. Yeah, I might
up from the input.
So that slightly dehydrated duck, I took the breast off the actual body.
Separated the breast.
Yes, yeah, I separated the breast from the body. Ooh, this could turn into a murder podcast really easily, couldn't it? I kept calling it a carcass too, which I don't know that.
What else do you call it? Skeletal system?
Let me go grab my duck skeletal system with some muscle attached. No, you're right. That doesn't roll off the tongue like carcass. So much easier just to say carcass. So I removed the breasts of the duck from the duck carcass. Got it. Scored the skin, and then flipped them into a pan, like salted them a little bit, flipped it into a pan, and then had Paul chop up the herbs for me. But it was a little bit of lavender, rosemary, sage, thyme. I think I brought him a little bit of savory too from the garden. Chopped that up, and with my duck confit, I'd thrown a little bit of some garlic cloves in there. So we smashed some of those up with the herbs and put a little salt in there and made it like a rub to go on the muscle side of the duck. So we rubbed that on while the fat was rendering out from the skin. And then I went and started the grill. So I ended up finishing it on the grill. And then he was like, "Oh, should we put honey in that?" And I was like, "No, if we're gonna put it on the grill, that honey's gonna burn." So I was like, I don't know if we want to put it into our like herb rub.
Yeah.
But I kind of like the idea. So I actually made like a salty honey. And once it was on the grill and cooking, once it got towards the end, I put a little bit of that on the skin part of the skin. So on the fatty part of the duck, and just like let it soak into the duck. And it was amazing. Like hands down some of the best duck I've ever made.
Wow.
So yeah, so this is definitely like, if you're going all out, this is the World 5.
Yeah. Definitely.
This was definitely a level 5 meal, really, because then we also did duck fat fried potatoes.
Right.
I bought some lion's mane mushrooms at the farmer's market, which we did try. We actually fried in the duck fat, but then we went outside and had a smoke for a while and came back. And by the time we came back, they'd soaked in all the fat. So they were not as good as like when they'd first come out of the fat. That was something like we basically could have had that as an appetizer, just like
right away.
It was so good when you pulled them out of the fat and they were still crispy. And like,
how did you do the potatoes? Diced or
quartered? So we peeled them. Anytime I'm doing like a roasted potato these days, I call upon Heston Blumenthal, who did a series called In Search of Perfection. We'll have to get into Heston at some point because his food is ridiculous.
Okay.
for lack of a better word. I mean, like, yeah, what that can send me on a whole tangent. But
Whole
anyway,
other,
yeah. Then let's focus here
Okay.
on this meal.
So you peeled it and quartered it.
Yeah, so you take the peels and tie them up in cheesecloth and add them to the water with the quartered potatoes. That you get that little bit of nutrients that are in the skin, because that's like usually the most nutritious part of the potato is actually the skin that has the most like vitamin and other thing content. I might need to use regular alcohol for cannabis and cocktails, chat.
Might be too much.
Kind of fucked up right now. I
Well,
mean,
I feel
not
like I
too
need
fucked
to-
up, but I'm very
No.
loose.
That's good. I need to catch up on the cannabis side.
Is it a nice smoke?
Yeah.
The lion's mane mushrooms. So they have like these little like fibers all over them. And so when you fry them, those just get like little and crispy. They're so good. And duck fat, especially.
Does it like burn at a higher heat or something?
A bit. Like it works really well for frying a lot of things. So I sent you a picture of kind of like all of the sides there on the stove. So you have the plum sauce that I made in the pan that I rendered the fat of the duck out in.
So you did the
on the
plum.
breast.
So you
Yeah,
left
I did.
the-
I took some of the fat out, but I didn't clean the pan really. I just left, the, what do you call it? Just drippings in the pan.
Okay.
And then sauteed the plums in that. So like a little bit more savory component to it. And the
Cool.
next pan over, there's Romano beans, which apparently are not as common as I thought they were. I picked those up at the farmer's market yesterday, and I really like them.
The long, thin one.
Yeah, they're like really super long and thin. Behind that is the fried mushrooms, which in that photo doesn't really do them justice. And then the duck fried potatoes are next to the green beans
Got it on the stove.
on the stove. Potatoes, yes, back to potatoes. To make like the best fried potatoes, you actually boil the potatoes first, soft.
Quarter
so
them
that
first?
Well, you quarter them, then boil them so
Okay.
that they cook. And then Heston Blumenthal says to like toss them to rough up the edges a little bit so that they get like some of these little like nooks and crannies that the fat will kind of climb into and get like crispy, so they have a little more extra texture, and then fry away.
For what temperature?
I just do them on the stove, so it's like a medium high heat.
Okay.
So it definitely was smoking in here, and that was the potatoes, not just me and Paul smoking.
Lots of smoke after.
Yeah, we mostly were smoking outside yesterday because COVID.
Right.
I was like, I haven't smoked with anyone else since like the pandemic started. Oh man. But yeah, duck fried potatoes. But getting the right kind of potato for that is really important. So the variety that Heston Blumenthal recommends is Maris Piper potato, I believe, which is not
A
something
what?
you could. Yeah, it's like a super heirloom variety. You'd have to find some specialty person that. Like I've tried to get the seed potatoes for it, and it's really hard. So it must be either more common in England or this guy's just got the hookup, because they're like, I think Yukon Golds are okay. I'm trying to remember the type that I've used before that has been the best, because I bought some Yukon Golds from the market yesterday, and then I went to another more specialty vendor and asked them, because they have some different types of potatoes, which one would be the best fried potato. They were definitely good, but they didn't get as much fluff on the outside of them as I would have liked for when I was roughing up potatoes. They were still a little too waxy, in my opinion, which is usually the problem with Yukon Golds, is they're a little too waxy.
Are those what often are used for mashed potatoes, right?
Yeah, they make really good mashed potatoes.
Because of that waxiness.
Yeah. Well, no, because like you don't really want, because usually as far as waxy potatoes go, red potatoes are usually kind of the waxiest. Hang on, let me grab my book here and see if that's one of my many books. Which book should I use? I'm going for my pro chef here. Where's the index? So that for French fried potatoes in here, they're saying baked potatoes. So maybe I actually want to go as far as getting russets to do next time. Sorry, I didn't realize I was going to have to go into depth on potatoes, so I was not prepared.
Well, we don't really have to even do this either. We can just.
What? No, you've asked a question, and I must answer it now.
We must have the answer.
So we're going with what Pro Chef says on this. The professional chef actually is what it's called.
Oh,
But we call it the pro chef.
yeah. Around these parts.
Around these parts. So this is the three main varieties they give you in this: low moisture, high starch, moderate moisture and starch, high moisture, low starch. So your high moisture, low starch, well, new potatoes and some fingerling varieties. So anything that's harvested when less than 1.5 inches in diameter. So I guess part of this is also the maturity of the potato. A new potato is tender. So these are the type you would usually make like a smashed potato with, and does not need to be removed prior to cooking or eating. So your low moisture, high starch, which are the ones that are best for French fries, et cetera, et cetera.
Low moisture, high starch.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is your Idaho or russet, usually known as baking potatoes or bakers, because this also says, and some fingerling varieties. Okay, but you said that under high moisture, low starch. So now you're confusing me with your fingerling varieties. So the flesh is easy to flake or mash. These are desirable for baking or pureeing. Also good for frying because the low moisture content makes them less likely to splatter or absorb grease. So that's why they typically are used for like fried French fries, is because they don't absorb as much moisture. But we might have to do the best at-home fry recipe that I've ever found, which I do believe uses Yukon Gold potatoes. But so in your moderate moisture and starch, you do have your Yukon Gold. So your moderate moisture and starch, this includes red skinned potatoes, waxy yellow potatoes, and certain fingerling varieties.
Oh my God. So fingerlings are in everything completely unpredictable. Every category.
Yeah. So basically, don't go for, if you need potatoes for a specific type of thing, you need a specific type of potato, you may not want to reach for those fingerlings because you fucking don't know what you're gonna get with that shit.
So never trust a fingerling.
Never trust a fingerling. That's what we've learned today. Number 1. Episode title: Never trust a fingerling. We got it.
We're done. Wow.
Done with that. So it looks like I may have been using the wrong potatoes yesterday, but they were pretty good. I always wanted to be like the first few times when I've made that Hesta Blumenthal recipe, and they just like get so so
Can't
good.
get there again.
And I guess I've just been going with the wrong type. So Maris Piper must be a low moisture, high starch potato.
Okay.
So the search continues for Maris Piper potatoes.
Let us know if you have it. If you can get
it,
seeds for it.
let me know. Get seed potatoes. I would like some. They'd be nice.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
The other thing that I did yesterday that I've never done before was a chocolate souffle.
Okay. What level is that?
Well, okay. So here's the thing. Okay. I'm going to say something, and this just might be coming from a place of, I know what I'm doing, but I don't think souffles are as hard as people want to make them out to be. I did, in preparation, watch the episode from the Great British Bake Off where they made chocolate souffles as one of the technical challenges.
Good
to prepare.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I was like, what am I looking to avoid as far as mistakes?
Yeah.
And I thought it was hilarious because every single person, it was a semifinal. Every single person was like, I've never made a souffle before. I have made one other souffle. I made a souffle early this year. I made a lemon souffle, and it was delightful. Getting the egg white to the right whip is really essential. The recipe actually said you'll know you've got it enough if a raw whole egg will sit on top of the whipped egg white. So I was like, well, fucking now I have to try that.
Better test it.
Yeah, that's a weird ass instruction. I was able to pull off that whole process, and I had a little help from Paul and Kristen, but like in less than an hour, like from start to finish, getting it out of the oven.
Wow.
Totally.
Okay.
I was like, why does everybody talk about how souffle is so hard? This wasn't hard.
Yeah.
I don't know if just a few steps. It's I can understand like getting the egg whites folded in the right way, getting your stuff folded together in the right way, not having too heavy of a hand with it. You're gonna, your quality is gonna be a little bit different, but like really, souffle is not as hard as some people make it out to be.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's just me knowing how to cook it. Like everybody's told me for so long, it's so hard.
Right.
I'm like, it's really not. Both of my souffles so far have come out amazing. So is it just me and I'm really just that good with food? Or is it as easy as it seems?
Okay.
So,
Do you think people are intimidated by eggs? I mean, I don't like eggs, so I don't usually like work with them, but I wonder if it is, there's like you would tend to overthink it or something because you're not, like, it's not something you make often.
right. I mean, that is possible. I could see that. Paul is like, some people serve it with a type of cream, or like, I guess people make like a Grand Marnier cream, like heavy cream with Grand Marnier in it, and then put it onto the souffle. And I was like, oh, well, I hadn't
That's
heard of
kind of
that
interesting.
before.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we went with some of the ice cream I have on hand here. We actually decided I had made a fleur de lis with the caramel sugar and some vanilla bean in it.
Okay.
So we tried that with it. And then we also tried my passion fruit ice cream with it. And the passion fruit ice cream is actually the clear winner of being a really good pairing with this dark chocolate souffle that I made.
Okay.
Passion fruit and chocolate is, I think, my favorite fruit and chocolate combo.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I don't put any fucking bananas anywhere near my chocolate. First of all, I don't
Okay.
like bananas in anything. I like bananas by themselves. I don't like them in anything.
Interesting. Okay.
I don't really, I mean, probably strawberry and chocolate is my next favorite. I don't really go in for the raspberry chocolate, which a lot of people do like,
Mm-hmm.
but it just doesn't do it for me. I think it's just like the sharpness with the passion fruit. I just don't know what it is. It's like magic. It's like magic to me.
It's very unique. I mean, you're not gonna find passion fruit chocolate at See's Candy.
Right. Well, I think the jelly bean. So this
Yeah,
actually makes
right.
for an excellent segue into our last topic that we kind of
Yeah.
decided to discuss for today, which is terpenes. The pot chocolate that I make with that jelly bean infused butter tastes like passion fruit to me.
Oh, interesting. So that's why you were saying to make it into ice.
Yeah.
Cool. Very cool.
So yes, that was the whole thought logic behind, oh, well, if I toast it and then I put it in ice cream, then my ice cream will taste like passion fruit and will get me high. Like, how could that be bad at all?
Yeah, best of both worlds. All the world.
Yeah, I'll say that is where my brain is right now. Passion fruit and chocolate. It's like, it sounds so weird. To me, it makes more sense to put raspberry with something, but I just don't like it. That's not my thing. I like it with other things, just not with chocolate. I don't want it anywhere near chocolate. I'm like, fruit and chocolate. First of all, I guess banana isn't the worst one. Hate orange and chocolate. Hate it. Hate it.
I could see that. It's like soapy or something.
Yeah.
That's like a weird. Yeah.
But passion fruit and chocolate is where it's at for me. So.
All right. Now we know that.
Now we know that.
Number one Gretchen rating.
Number one. But so obviously the combination of terpenes and jelly bean leads to that passion fruity flavor. So terpenes are actually multi-purpose. And I found a lovely chart in one of these 5 books that I have next.
So can I tell you why I had this question?
Yes, you can.
Because
I would like
yesterday
to know.
yeah, perfect. So yesterday when we went to the dispensary, it was one of those places where it was really interesting because if we got there early, we got there at like 8:30 and it opened at 10. And we were the second, they had the parking lot closed off. It was a huge parking lot, huge, just like warehouse kind of out by itself on the outskirts of this like teeny town. Super weird. So, because we had planned on like parking a couple of blocks away and walking over and not making it very obvious as we drove back where we had been. But
well, you're thinking your things through.
Okay, great. So we get there early. We're the second car in line. So they're not even letting people into the parking lot. You line up in your car first. And then, and then about 15 minutes before 10 o'clock, someone comes over and gives you a time slot. And then you can go pull into the parking lot. And when it's your time slot, you go line up.
Okay. Very efficient.
Very efficient.
I like
totally efficient. Yeah. And they said they would text you too. Neither of us got a text. So, if that piece worked, even better, but it was fine for what happened. So then you get in and there's a long wraparound line and everyone is standing, 6 feet apart and masks are required. So it feels very clean and sterile. And then you walk up to like a bank teller system and they say like, I'll take the next person, and you walk up and then you tell them what you're interested in and what you're looking for. And then, or you could have also looked at the menu online and known like exactly what you wanted.
Okay.
So I walked up and said, I have this amount of money to spend. I want this amount. Tell me what I should buy. So one of the things she said, so I've always paid attention to the THC level and thought that was like the best indicator of what your like high level would be. So I had in mind, if I'm going to pay for this, I'm going to be looking for like the highest THC.
I want to use the smallest amount of pot,
right,
for my buck, like.
Exactly. So she told me, so she brought back a couple of options and they were on the lower THC level. And so I was kind of like, well, talk me through like what this decision was. And so she said, one of the things that you want to look for is the terpene amount, because that is what helps with prolonging the high and what helps with balancing the psychoactive properties, which I had thought was always like just CBD.
Yeah.
But so she said that the higher the THC, the faster the high you'll get, but the shorter length of it. So that a lower THC will give you like a lower THC in balance with, I don't know what like a terpene amount would be. I don't know what that means, but like whatever the balance is of that extends your high, helps with like more of the pain management properties, and helps manage the psychoactive paranoia piece that can happen with like a higher THC amount. So I was really curious about it because no one had ever talked to me about terpenes before, and I've had medical like cannabis licenses, so it was very interesting to me that
So you're like, tell me about this thing I don't know about.
So I thought I'd bring the question to my local, not local cannabis expert.
So I had always been under the impression that the terpenes were mostly, and I think part of this is also like that there is actually some amount of like studying being done on marijuana now, like where they're getting a much better understanding of how it all interacts together. For the longest time, the THC was the only thing that most people considered. But there are so many different compounds in cannabis that it would make sense.
Yeah.
That chart I sent you.
What is this from?
Edibles.
Edibles. Thank you, Edibles.
Which has my favorite marshmallow recipe in it.
So you were saying because there's so many elements, we're only just now starting to explore more about what they individually do and then what they do as a collective in the whole sort of weed
the whole cannabis plant and
the plant
consumption of said plant.
Yeah.
And because this is an amazing book. Not only are the recipes in it very good, like extensively tested, it has a lot of great information in it. And I mean, the stuff about terpenes. So
it's pronounced terpene?
Terpene, yeah.
Okay.
How are they pronouncing it?
She said terpene. And I was like, huh. Like turpentine. Like all I could think was turpentine, which I didn't really want to associate with what I was smoking.
Yeah. So it's basically like the flavor. This is sort of interesting because it says terpenes, fragrance, flavor, and feeling. So I hadn't realized that was a component to it, is that those specific terpenes contribute to feeling. So
and
that's
flavor, and what was the third thing?
So it's fragrance, flavor, and feeling. So like flavor and fragrance are pretty well married together because if you can't smell, you can't. That's why when you're sick and you like can't taste anything, that's why. Like your sense of smell is a huge, huge part of your sense of taste.
Sure.
Basically, it makes up most of your sense of taste. And I think there are more than are listed on this page. I'm pretty sure there are more than just these, but these might be the main ones you find in the pot, I'm guessing. There might be some explanation to this chart somewhere in here, but we're just going to read the chart itself right now. So you've got myrcene, caryophyllene, limonene, lamellopinene, nerolidol, and humulene, I think. Don't know. Maybe.
Sorry, so what were those?
Those are the types of terpenes that are at least listed on this page.
I see. So these are the like categories, like bigger umbrella categories of those.
Yeah.
Three
So
things? So you just sent me this, and what I'm finding interesting is that the also found in part.
yeah. So most plants have terpene in them.
Most plants. Okay.
So I think it really comes down to, it's like the chemical compound that makes up the aromatic in a plant.
Okay, so let me read. So for example, myrcene, is that what you said?
Myrcene, MYR, yeah.
Myrcene, so also found in hop, mango, lemongrass, and pineapple.
Yeah.
Fascinating. To dig in a little more to that specific one, the aromas and flavors are cloves, earthy musk, tropical fruit, and the therapeutic effects are antidepressant, sedative, muscle relaxant, pain relief, and anti-inflammatory.
Yeah.
So can you get some of those same things from these other things? From hops, mango, pineapple, that kind of thing?
Yep.
Okay.
So let's take caryophyllene, the next one over.
Okay.
Cedar, oregano, and black pepper.
So those are the flavors, aromas.
Those are the flavors and aromas. It has neuroprotective, anti-cancer, anti-inflammatory, and gastroprotective qualities. So cinnamon is something that you can find this in. And cinnamon is something they use as an anti-inflammatory.
Same with black pepper, right?
Yeah, black pepper. But they usually put that with, no, that's a whole different. That's a whole different thing. We won't. Let's scratch that.
This is fascinating.
Yeah, I was not aware that they had to, obviously I don't read all of them. I'm just here for the recipes. That's all. But I would think that from this chart that probably Jelly Bean probably has a decent concentration of the myrcene because it has a kind of tropical aromatic to it, and it's always been antidepressant, yes,
totally.
For sure. I remember when I first started smoking it, it was just always like, oh, I feel much better about everything right now.
Yeah. For me, it was the pain relief piece of it.
Yeah.
And the sedative piece of it.
Mm-hmm.
If that is the same, if that's all the same in that myrcene family.
Yeah. So it makes a lot of sense.
Something?
Yeah.
So as part of a screenshot Gretchen sent me from this edibles book, it says terpenes or terpenoids are also an important factor and play a role in the overall entourage effect. Cannabinoid terpenoid interactions amplify the beneficial effects of cannabis while mitigating feelings of anxiety that can sometimes be brought on by THC.
So going for your highest level of THC is probably just going to end up producing a little bit more of like anxiety.
Right.
So
if you don't have a balanced amount of the terpene.
Yeah.
Which maybe we're getting too much into it for this one conversation. But
we can do some research and come back and talk about it a little bit more. I wouldn't mind doing that so that I'm not feeling like I'm just going to sit here and want to read this book out loud.
Right, which is what we're doing.
Any research on this yet? Yeah, so
I know how it all works. How do you start merging strains together that have higher and higher THCs or something, and that's how you keep building a strain that focuses more on THC? And I don't know how any of that works in terms of like, is it just a gamble? You never really know what your THC level is going to be at the end, or do you get an idea of it based on the strains you're using? And I just have.
These are all excellent questions because so Jelly Bean, it's a hybrid. So I'm guessing yes, there is some like, as far as like people have been growing it for so long. Getting it tested and knowing like the exact THC level and all that stuff is relatively new. Since we've had medical marijuana for at least 10 years now, right? Like if they've had medical marijuana in some states.
In some places, yeah. I think I don't know enough about it. 10 feels like a lot to me.
California has had medical. So it's before I moved here, and I moved here in 2008. So I think
Only
they might
through
have,
your doctor?
you'd have to get like a prescription. Yeah.
Okay, so for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. More than 10 years, at least 12 years. I'm pretty sure they passed medical here in like, must have been like 2005. Because I know it was a few
Okay.
years, like it was one of the main reasons I wanted to move to California.
I mean, that makes sense.
At least now the research is coming around to it, I think was the point of
Got it.
why I started down that path. Sorry. Well, guess I'm a little sleepy right now. What?
Yeah.
Ginger's here asking what I'm doing.
What do you use to infuse the gin?
Jelly bean.
A sedative.
It makes me feel better because I've been smoking it before bed because I'm like basically out of like nighttime weed at this point. And I was like,
Totally.
the best strain to be smoking before bed because usually I used to exclusively smoke it in the daytime.
So we have a lot to keep talking about that.
Yeah, we have our research cut out for us. I mean, I knew it had something to do with it, but I hadn't realized that it was quite so interconnected. But I guess I'm a little behind in my research on being a pot expert. Some expert I am. I am not an expert. Let's highlight this right now. I am not a pot expert. I'm a pot aficionado.
Aficionado.
Am I at that level? Am I an aficionado? Maybe I'm not quite an aficionado.
We should rank it.
Yeah.
Let's see. Enthusiast, okay.
I think maybe
What am
pot.
I? Enthusiast. A consumer? I think maybe that's
yeah.
really what I am.
Like I was like, yeah, how would you quantify the different levels? But I was like, well, I probably do know a bit more about it because I've been growing my own for what, like 7 or 8 years? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think at least 8. I had the tent a long time.
Almost a decade. That makes you fairly expert in some pieces of it.
But clearly I need to do more research. Oh, that's why you're over here. I have the tree. Like, Ginger is over here being all up in my face. I don't know why. It's like, excuse me, you have the things I want.
I'm sorry, you haven't noticed. Trying to be very patient, but
you're doing a terrible job.
So these episodes are meant to be kind of a supplement to our recipe reviews that will happen. We're looking at 3 to 1 or something like that. We'll do one of these once a month or something.
Right. Yeah. So this would be a once a month because then we're going to do like a pantry power up type recipe. I did send some of my pickled limes home with Paul and Kristen yesterday.
That's nice.
Always handy
for both parties.
Yeah, they love coming here. It's like we started with we had some of the ginger beer with some of my ice cubes that I've been making, and they were just like, what these fruit ice cubes? Sorry, what now? How are you making things more fancy again? Like,
right, exactly. When you're like, oh, it's so simple. It's just these 2 things.
Yeah. Oh, I just, I cook the fruit a little bit and then I send it through my jelly bag and then put that in the ice cubes and freeze it. And now I have peach and I have blackberry and there's some lemon in there too. So, and then it's
incredible.
It's only when other people point out like how that's not normal.
No.
But I'm like, oh yeah, I'm kind of a weirdo.
Well, you have an idea and you find a way to execute it. So it's just the matter. I guess have a good evening.
Yeah, I think it's time. I think it's time to go.
All right, another successful High Gluttony.
I think so. Yeah.
Talk to you later.
Talk to you later. Have a good one.
You too.
Bye. Bye.